I am so excited to have this conversation today with a longtime friend. Maybe known on social media with a handle called the Los Angeles River, but Stephen Carballo is with me today, and this is the ultimate Renaissance man. So I'm really excited to talk with him. Stephen, thanks for coming on today, bud.
My pleasure, man. Thank you for having me. Stoked to be here.
Yeah, really, really excited to have this conversation with you. When we first met, you met one of my employees who had come to your tattoo parlor to get a tattoo and had brought some of our retail buyers with them. And like, they created a little bit of this tradition around, like, we go to this big trade show every year out in LA, and let's go down, let's all get tattoos and like bond our relationship. And so when I got the opportunity to go join those guys, you gave me my first tattoo. That was probably the most meaningful tattoo I'll ever get. But then I got to learn so much more about you as a human, and the conversation I remember you and I having about, the books that you were reading and like the various entrepreneurial endeavors that you were just undertaking in addition to your shop. I was just completely and totally floored by everything that you were juggling at once and seemingly doing it with, like, I don't know, the most amount of like grace I've ever seen someone juggle this amount of stuff with. So, when I was going to start this podcast, I thought, man, who would be like the first handful of people that I would just want to just listen to and talk to and pick their brain? And I absolutely thought of you as like top 3 people I want to have conversations with. So thanks for coming on today.
Heck yeah, man. It's an honor, man. I appreciate that. That's a heck of an intro.
Stephen, tell us, for people who don't know you at all, tell us just a little bit of your story, man. Tell us what you do, how you got here, all the various things that you juggle. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, totally, man. So first and foremost, I'm a tattooer. That's what I started doing first. I've been doing that since like 16, 17 years old. But then, I take on quite a few other creative endeavors as well at the same time. I've owned quite a few businesses, brick and mortar. I've had a couple shops. I do metalwork, fabrication. I'm a person that just likes to tinker. I like to work with wood, metal, whatever. If there's something that I'm interested in, I kind of like to dive headfirst and just try to figure it out. I've shaped surfboards, whatever it is. If it's something that I'm interested in, like I built my own tattoo machines, then I like to dive headfirst and try to figure out, hey, how do I do that myself? How can I cut out the middleman and figure out how to do this on my own? And then sometimes it turns into a business venture, and sometimes not. Sometimes I'll build something, figure it out, and then be like, cool, I just needed to figure it out. Now I figured it out, and this ain't my thing. Time to move on to the next thing.
Love it.
I feel like that's kind of my personality. Like, I get super stoked on something, figure it out, and then kind of go from there. And I don't think that I've ever had like some big master plan. I'm just navigating through life, and then certain things are inspiring me, and then I'm going in that direction. And that's kind of how I've lived my life, and I'll go in that direction till, hey, it doesn't inspire me anymore, and then I'll go ahead and head in another different direction. And it's a fun and exciting way to live, and it has definitely has its pros and cons as well.
Sure. Well, so this is really interesting because I think there are a lot of people that don't live their truth in life. I think there are a ton of people who just sort of go through the motions and they have hopes and dreams, but they never go pursue them. And for whatever reason, maybe it's fear of failure. Maybe it's like they feel like they have other obligations, so they have to just go work a normal day job. And like they can't see those kinds of risks or whatever it might be. But what do you say? But you're doing it, right? I think, right? So you talked about the pros and cons of like, you have this like fluid way of navigating where it's like, hey, I want to build my own motorcycle this week. And like, you know what? You're going to get inspired by that and go do that. And that's going to be great. And then maybe that inspires you to start a motorcycle business. Or maybe it's like, I checked the box. I'm going to move to the next thing. Exactly. Like, what would you say are a couple of like, what are the pros? Like, how's your life better because
love it. And I'm absolutely fired up. Like when I'm into a passion project, I'm like, I can't even sleep at night because that's all I'm thinking about, like 24/7. When I dive into something, like my wife laughs at me because like when I dive into something, it's like 24/7. All I'm thinking about, all I'm doing, like right now, it's filming the snowboard project for my son. It's like we haven't done anything for 3 months besides that. Like, like finances are suffering, other things in my life are suffering, but it's like I'm all in when I'm all in, and like that's what we're gonna do. And then, so like I said, I'm super passionate, and so like the result is can be amazing. Sometimes it can't be in terms of like whatever the finished product is, but most of the time things come out cool and the results are great. But yeah, I mean, for entrepreneurship in general, or for a creative or an artist in general, the cons are there's obviously no job security. There's obviously, yeah, that side of it where there's you don't know 100% at the end of the month or in the next 6 months, like how your finances are going to be and how you're going to make your next buck. You know what I mean? But that's not that that's a choice that I made. Like I'm going to dive off the deep end and become an entrepreneur, and I'm going to become this kind of person, a creative. It's just how I've always done it. Like I've always been tattooing since I was 17. I like I've worked very few jobs. Like I worked at Home Depot pushing shopping carts when I was like 15, and I worked in a kitchen when I was like 18. So pretty much I've just always been an independent artist and an entrepreneur. So it's really, really tough for me to even imagine abiding by somebody else's schedule and having these kind of guidelines and sticking to. So I absolutely love it. But then also, man, it sure would be nice. I can imagine the feeling of knowing that, like, oh, I'm on salary. It's like all base expenses are paid, like that like fantasy sounds like insane and amazing at the same time. But I bet you I wouldn't be singing the same tune when I want to go hop onto a project, and now I can't because I got to go to work instead. So, I mean, there's no right or wrong. Everyone's just built different, and there's different kind of things. And like I said, it wasn't premeditated. I just kind of like was cruising, and this is the way that life sent me, you know?
I love that. I've said over and over again, like, if it doesn't light you up, man, don't do it. Like, go find something that lights you up. Like, don't waste your energy, like living a life that you hate, or, and to your point, like the trade-off between like perhaps job security and, and like having the flexibility to go do what you're doing right now, where you're on this project for your son's snowboarding, which I do want to talk about in a minute. Like, that's a huge trade-off, but that's what brings you joy. That's what brings you the most joy in life. And so like the trade-off is, hey, there's a little less security. There's a little less of like, a foregone conclusion about how the month's going to end up. Yeah, that's good, man. That's good. Well, tell me, you've also designed or at least created designs for companies like, have you worked with, didn't you work with like a motorcycle company and like a shoe company and maybe even some surfboards that you've designed?
In the action sports industry and skate serve, like everyone from Vans to Adidas, Swatch to Hurley to everybody. I've done design projects for them. So basically, like I said, I started tattooing when I was 17. I kept tattooing, went to art school. I have a BFA. So I just like kept doing the tattoo thing. I was designing things, painting, drawing, and then eventually my tattoos kind of started gaining traction, and a lot of people started coming to me for them. And then these bigger brands like Vans and Adidas started coming to me to do my custom tattoo style designs, either on walls at their headquarters or for collaborations on apparel and things like that. And then for like a time period, like pre-COVID, for like 3 years, that actually took priority over the tattooing, where it became more lucrative and busier than the actual tattoo business, where like I was getting paid good money to come on photo shoots and video shoots or paint big murals for these big brands. And so that, like I said, kind of just going with the flow, like that just started earning more money than tattooing and being busier than tattooing. So I thought it kind of started going in that direction. Yeah, doing trade shows, activations, all that kind of stuff. And that was really cool. And then when COVID happened, it kind of just, all the activations and the spending started going down, and those kind of things kind of dried up for a little bit. I mean, obviously there wasn't any more activations and projects like that, so those things kind of dried up. And then when things kind of went back to normal, I just hopped in headfirst back into tattooing harder than ever. Probably tattooing more now than I have ever been in my life. So yeah, it's kind of crazy. Things just kind of go back and forth. And tattooing's always just been there for me. It's always been tried and true through college when I was like trying to pay for college and such. Tattooing was there always. So kind of being like I said, I like to go into all these different little side projects and avenues. tattooing's always been the constant. And that's probably because it's money. So I haven't been able to leave it because it's like, oh, I love it, I enjoy it, and it's a solid income stream. So it's always been there for me.
Yeah, and you're really good at it. So I think when you have a talent like you do, like it would be a disservice to the world to not express it and to sort of share that with other people. Not to say that you should tattoo forever. I mean, do what will light you up, but like, it's such a it's it's very clear that like you're really passionate about doing that when you're doing it, and like it shows up in your work. And I think that's probably why you've never had trouble booking tattoo clients
Yeah,
whenever you've wanted to kind of go a little hard and heavy on that side of your world.
yeah, absolutely. Like I said, I'm 34 now. I've been doing it since I was 17. So it's like breathing for me. I know how to do it. I understand the industry. So yeah,
Yeah. If someone wanted to book a tattoo with you, you have a physical location where?
yeah. I own a shop in Venice on Abercrombie. And then I'm on the road now because of like I said, this snowboard project we're working on. I'm on the road pretty much full time. I'm only in LA like 1 week out of the month, and then the rest of the time we're kind of just on the road.
Wow.
Shit.
So you take your whole family on the road?
No, we have two bulldogs at home, so my wife stays home and hangs with the dogs, and then I'll pop in for like a day or two on the weekends here and there, and just say hi, hang, and then we'll do like one full LA weekend, one full LA week where I'll work in LA and hang with the family. Um, then the rest of the time we're on the road, just me and Noah.
Got it. Got it. So if people want to find you on the road to get a tattoo, they just hit you up on Instagram or on a
Yeah,
website?
just on Instagram, I always post all of my travel dates and like different cities every week. Um, in the winter, it's mostly snow destinations because we're filming. So it's Salt Lake City, Tahoe, Minnesota, and then in the summers, it's a lot of like just cities that I enjoy. So it'll be Austin, Nashville, Santa Fe, places like that. Yeah.
Got it. Got it. Um, all right. So this brings me to, I think, probably the heart of what I want to talk about with you, because you've lived like 5 lives in one, and I think you've done more than most people do in a lifetime with all of these projects that you reference with the tattoo business, and now you've got a 6-year-old son who is essentially a professional snowboarder already. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah. He's doing crazy good. He's got bunch of a bunch of never been done. It's like kind of not kind of. It's like the best that there's ever been. He's doing things that nobody's done at that age before, and nobody's seen anybody that good before. Like Sean White at that age, who was barely riding, and my son's already doing flips and filming full video
Yeah.
projects. Like, so it's kind of crazy.
So you've now kind of adapted your life to nurturing his skill set because he's passionate, he loves this, and he's really, really talented. And so you've adapted your life to this now, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, this is only his second year of riding. Like last season was his first season, and it was just very clear that he was very good right off the bat. But last year, we just kept it local. We lived in LA. We didn't live our regular life, and we'd go snowboarding on the weekends or in the middle of the week. Whenever I could escape out of work, I would take him up there. This season, we've dropped everything. Like, I'm not. This is it for me. Like, this is what we're doing. Like I said, I'm only home 1 week at a month. Um, we're pursuing this with every bit we have, with all our resources, all of our time, pulled out savings. Like we're like really going for it, and we're gonna see this through and see where it goes.
How how do you do that though, Steven? So like, okay, I'm an entrepreneur. I've got a kid who's got an incredible talent that I believe in, that I want to pour all my resources into. What are some like real tangible things? Like if you were going to give me advice, if my daughter were going to go do the same thing, what are some things that you would tell me to look out for? Some pitfalls you tell me to avoid? What are some things you've learned by like dedicating this amount of time to his craft?
I mean, for one thing, like for them to enjoy it and keep going, like for like if we're talking just like because I get this question a lot because he has a big Instagram following, and like how do I make my kid become this good, or how did it happen? I think that number one is like making sure it stays fun, because if it doesn't stay fun, they're gonna fall off and quit and not want to do it anymore. So like it's very easy, and I'm not the role model when it comes to this because I do get pretty aggro sometimes, and I get super passionate about it, and I can focus really hard on it, and then, like tell myself like, hey Steve, you gotta chill out. We're doing this for it's fun is the most important thing. Like we can't take it too serious, you know. But like that's number
Yeah.
one. It's like making sure it stays fun for them. Otherwise, they're not gonna like it anymore. But I'm lucky that my son has like a very high threshold and tolerance for pressure. Like he's able to push, push, push. Whereas I feel like a lot of other kids are not able to kind of do that. They want to go ride for 1 hour, 2 hours, train for a little bit, and then they want to go play with toys. Whereas my kid will wants to ride from open till close all day long. You know,
Yeah.
so yeah, that's one thing. Is like yeah, all kids are built different, and then like yeah, I am lucky to have the kind of career that I can take with me, but we're figuring it out. Like it's not working perfectly yet. Like I said, this all happened this year, and we're just kind of going for it and just cruising and figuring out and seeing how this is going to work. I don't have the recipe yet, but I know I've met a lot of other parents that are kind of in the same boat with like high level performing kids. And I've met parents that are plumbers and dog groomers and things like that. You just make it happen if it's a priority to you. Like a lot of them work 4 10s instead of regular 8 hour shifts. So both parents work 4 10s. So one parent can train 8 hours a day with their kid on the half the days, and the other parent can train 8 hours a day with the kid on the other half of the days, you know? So it's just 100% sacrifice, what it really is. Like, if you want something enough, you can figure it out.
Yeah, great input there, by the way. Having fun, I took away, like making sure you're constantly having fun. Um, but knowing your kid too is really important, right? If you know, you got to know where their thresholds are and where like they're going to be at capacity. And, I feel like sometimes parents don't know that or they don't, or they push through it and like they deny it in some way. So really important to know where their thresholds are and then figuring it out. I think that's one of the things that holds most people back in anything. It's like we feel like we got to have the answers. We've got to have the entire roadmap, planned out before we go take the first step. But I've found in my life, it's the exact opposite. You often just have to take the first step
Yeah.
and then start figuring it out as you go. And you just,
Yeah.
I shared a quote this week with a friend it said something to the extent of like, people who are successful in life try or sorry, people who are successful in life fail more than most people try. And
Yeah.
so I think like you just have to take those steps and start to figure it out. And so I love that you just sort of like confirmed that for me
Oh, yeah.
because I
I have a lot. So, like, I've done a lot of endeavors and I've failed a handful, more than a handful. I fail more than I succeed, far more. So, but yeah, like I said, it all just comes to being a pivot and next thing, oh, what's the next thing?
yeah, that isn't that the beauty of like entrepreneurship. And then I think that bleeds right into raising a family and being a parent. So today, if how would you say, is there something that you do now to try to stay grounded? I mean, you're living on the road a little bit this year, right? You're not as home that often. You're really like you're in a facility right now dedicated to your son's craft. Like, how do you stay grounded? How do you hold it together?
I mean, honestly, like we're living the dream, dude. Like I was a snowboarder, so I get to ride every day with my kid. Like I absolutely love what I'm doing, you know? Like he absolutely loves what he's doing. So like we are fired up, we're stoked, you know what I mean? Like I don't consider this as work. I don't consider it as like I mean it is extremely hard work. Like a lot of nights we're out till midnight snowboarding, shoveling, doing things like literally till midnight and getting home up and getting home at 1 in the morning and then crashing out, you know? So it's exhausting, but I mean, we're out, like, I would say it's nature. We're out in nature. We're out in the mountains. Like, I live for this. Like, we're driving on road trips, getting to see the country, cruising Route 66, looking at all these beautiful scenic landscapes. And, like, that's it for me. I think that's when I'm actually most at peace. Like we got tunes like tomorrow or in a couple of days we're driving from here straight to Tahoe and it's gonna be like a beautiful drive. Get to throw some tunes on and just like see parts of the country that 90% of people don't ever get to see. And I think honestly like that's the dream for me. Like if money wasn't a factor, and like we just had it all, like I think I would still be doing the same thing. It would just be a little bit less stressful. Like
Yeah.
like if we had it all and we were just cruising, we had the funding. This is what I would want to do. I would want to just go from city to city,
Yeah.
ride different destinations, keep training, keep trying to do what we can do, and try to be the best. You know. So like I genuinely enjoy this.
I think the trade off of like being able to do what you're talking about, spend time outside, spend time in nature, spend time on the road, bonding with your kid, like that is the dream. That's what everybody wants. That's what everyone aspires to. That's why I want to talk to you, because like you're living it. But you know what? You trade off a little bit of security for it. But you know, it seems like it's well worth it. It seems
Yeah,
like it's absolutely worth it.
absolutely. I think there's always time to make money later. Like, and we will figure it out. Like, but that's another huge thing that I learned during the whole COVID thing. I think I was always so focused on money, and then when I kind of took 2 years during COVID, kind of everything stopped, and I stopped and smelled the roses. I realized, like, hey, if my business fails and I like whatever miss some payments or whatever, it's not the end of the world. Whereas I thought that it was literally the end of the world. like,
Yeah.
like if I'm like, because it went from like, okay, everything was great. We were killing it. I had 3 shops open. We were making really good money. So wait a minute. There's no way, like, to how first it went from how am I going to pay my rent? How am I going to keep my business sustained? To there's absolutely no way it's possible. Even if I tried my hardest, you know, with 3 shops, like all of them like mandatory shutdown. I was like, there's no possible way I'm going to pay $20,000 a month in rent next month when I'm not allowed to operate, you know?
Right.
And then, like, obviously it's horrible, but it turned a light on my head. Like, wait a minute, I'm still healthy. I'm still alive. I'm still with my family. We're eating. It's not like the food was never off my plate. Like, that was never been an issue, you know? It's like these
Yeah.
numbers that on your computer, they don't mean anything. You know what I mean? You could die tomorrow. And like it doesn't matter whether I had $1 million or I was a million in debt. You know what I mean? But I am glad that I went snowboarding yesterday and had a good time. You know? So yeah, I think that's really
I
a huge wake up for me.
I love that perspective because you almost had to realize that call it, you didn't lose it all, but you almost had to lose it all to realize that like, hey, life still goes on. Like it's okay. I still have my health. I have my family. You know, we're surrounded in love, and I'm going to go snowboarding. You know, like you were able to sort of like realize that like this too shall pass, which I think are the four most powerful words in the language. It's like this too will pass, and we'll just go do the next thing.
Yep.
That's a really powerful message, Stephen. I don't know that you realize it right now, but that entire piece of commentary right there, which is very intrinsic to you, which comes so naturally to you, doesn't come naturally to most people. And so there's a lot of people that need to hear that right now, that need to realize that I can take risks. And even if I fail, I'm going to live to play another day,
Yeah.
and it's okay. And so like, again, for someone like you, man, like I wish it came that easy to me, because it's like, it's in you. Like you're just like built for this stuff. Um, and a lot of people aren't, but also want to do what you're doing. And so I think they need to hear encouragement from people like you that are actually doing the damn thing. So you know, one day, hopefully you'll look back and realize that what a powerful sentiment this is. And maybe you do already, but like, it's really powerful, man.
Heck yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, I feel sometimes, I mean, or a lot of times, you fully just reinvent yourself. Like, I feel like we're in a reinvention like right now with our life right now, we're in a full reinvention process as we speak. You know, like I had 3 retail locations. We were doing good money, and then everything got shut down. And then, but even aside from that, like we wouldn't have been able to travel and snowboard and do what we're doing right now had those shops still been open. So now there's something new. Like now I want to be able to be 100% mobile. Like if I want to travel, I don't have to worry about the business. It needs to be 100% self-sufficient, you know? So we're figuring out how that works, and we're figuring out what the next chapter is. And I don't know, because it just started right now. This is our first year. So I don't know what Steve 5.0's business model is going to look like and what our income streams are going to come from. But yeah, especially like, yeah, as an entrepreneur, you got to like not be afraid to just humble yourself and start from square one and be like, okay, what's the next chapter? How are we going to make ends meet? First of all, how are we going to reduce expenses, kind of live lean for a little bit and figure out how we take it from the bottom and build up again. You know what I mean?
Dude, dude,
That's, it's what it
what an
is.
inspiration. Yeah, I mean, what an inspiration you are. I mean, this is like the most inspiring conversation I've had all week. Like
Uh,
the lack of fear that you operate with, and it's just like, we're just going to go do it. We're just going to go figure it out. We're not scared to go do this. We'll just make it happen. Like if more people had that mindset, man, I think this world would be so creatively inspired. And there'd be even more beauty than we already have. So I just appreciate that. If people want to follow, before I forget, if people want to follow your son, how can they follow him? Because he's really incredible. And I want to send people to Instagram or YouTube or wherever he is.
Bad boy underscore Noah on Instagram.
Bad boy underscore Noah.
Bad boy Noah. So that's his Instagram and his YouTube. Yep.
He's had some videos go viral recently, right? Or quite a few.
I know that the next endeavor is going to be figuring out how this is going to monetize, because his social media presence is like surpassed mine way further than mine has ever been. Like I have like a amount of followers and decent amount of engagement, but his is through the roof. It's like more than any other pro snowboarder. Yeah, like his last big video has 8 million plays on it. He's had a with 8 million plays. Like every couple videos goes to the millions, which is crazy because I have 50,000 followers and I make a post and I get a few thousand views on it, and his just go to the millions, like consistently to the millions. So like
Wow.
from a brand perspective, like that's insane. Like there's brands that sponsor athletes and stuff like that that don't even get a tenth of his engagement or a tenth of his reach, you know, big name athletes, you know. Like I said, I've looked at his engagement side by side with other professionals in his same league, like ski and snowboard, and he's got more than anybody, like more than the
Well,
biggest names in the sport. So
I have no doubt. If that's the case, I have no doubt. Like monetizing, that's going to be no issue. Like, like that kid's going to set himself up, and set himself up forever just with that kind of engagement. I mean, it's absolutely just, you're right on the cusp of it. What do you? I'm just curious. I've really got two questions really left for you. One, the last conversation that you and I had in your shop a few years ago. We were talking about different books that we like to read. Have you read anything interesting lately that has really inspired you, or has been, has just been intriguing?
yeah, recently I've been reading Mind Gym. Have you read that one?
What is it? Say it again.
Mind
No.
Mind, Mind Gym. Yeah, I forget what the name of the writer is, but it's like a book about high performance when it comes to sports, athletics, and just kind of training your brain and your thought process, and kind of just how to get rid of mental blocks when it comes to sports. And a lot of that stuff carries over into business as well. We're kind of, I mean, it's repeated in a lot of other books that I'm sure you and I have read, but it's just about how the mental battle is 90% of the battle when it comes to sports, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think it's 90% of the battle when it comes to sports, business, and parenting. I think all three. It's like, it's mostly all up here.
Yep, absolutely. But in sports, it's very, very heavy, even more than so in business, because in business you actually have to like have a plan, consistency, follow through, do this, and that. Whereas when it comes to sports, and especially extreme sports, you're doing some sort of stunt. Whereas if you really commit yourself and really believe in yourself and you do it, whether you're a beginner or not, 90% of the time you can pull it off if you truly believed in it. Like a 100% beginner could come out here and hit the gigantic jump. And if they really believed in themselves and really committed to it, there's a high chance that they would land it and survive. You know what I mean? You get hurt when you don't believe in yourself, when you're going to try something, jump some stairs on your skateboard or your bike or whatever, and you're rolling up and you're thinking, I don't know about this. It's not going to be good. That's when you get hurt. But those that believe in themselves and are like, oh, I got this, then 90% of the time it works out, so.
You reminded me of when I was in middle school and I was skateboarding and I went to the skate park of Tampa. And it was the first time I'd ever dropped in on a ramp. I was trying to drop in, and if you don't lean into that drop, this is a really good point now. If you don't lean into that drop, right? If you don't believe that you can actually do it and lean in, you're going to pull back. And that's the absolute last thing you want to do when you're dropping in on a ramp is pull back, because now you're just going to bust your ass. Like you're going to completely wipe out, potentially get hurt. But you're right. If you can overcome the mental barrier and go, I can do this. I believe that I can do this. And you just drop in, it's smooth. You just,
like that's a perfect analogy. Like an absolute beginner can go to the big ramp and drop in and succeed and commit. But it's the opposite of your, like, we have self-preservation. Our brains are telling you not to just lean forward off this cliff. But the thing is, if you commit, you're going to survive, and if you lean back, you're going to crap. And that's a huge part of it when it comes to sports. And then we've all kind of been in that state where like everything is just, you've been in that flow state where everything's just going perfect and you're landing everything and you're feeling good and you're feeling confident, and fear is not even in your mind. You're just succeeding and doing awesome. And so from the perspective of a professional athlete, it comes down to how do I find that place again? How do I tap into that flow state again? So that way when it's time to go to a competition or time to film something, how do I put myself back in that place where I felt really good? Was it the music I was listening to? Was it the surroundings? Was it the people that I'm with? Is it breath work? Do I need to do some breathing meditation? Like, how do I get myself to the place where I'm in my flow state?
So I was going to ask you, what are some tactics to find out like how to get into that flow state? And so it's a whole list of things that you've really got to figure out for you. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like it's different for all different people. And some people don't even know that they're putting themselves into flow state. Like some people just throw their headphones on and put on metal music, and then all of a sudden they're in it. And then some people are more calculated and have to be like, okay, like I know a lot of people that they need, it's like a breathing practice. Like you need to, before you go, take like 5 deep breaths, slowly in through your nose, out through your mouth. Then as soon as you're done with those 5 breaths, just turn your brain off and just go. Because your muscle memory knows how to do what it's supposed to do. That's okay. You've practiced, you've trained every day for the last year. Your body knows what it needs to do. Your brain knows what it needs to do. But it's your self-preservation and your brain and your self-doubt that's going to throw a curveball and mess you up. But if you can just tell your brain to shut the heck up, then 90% of the time it's going to work perfectly,
So rich. It's so rich.
It's our caveman brains that are telling you, like, run from that dinosaur. Run from that woolly mammoth. That's dangerous, when you kind of have to just reprogram that brain to be like, no, I got this. I trust myself. I know what I'm doing. My muscle memory knows what it's doing. My brain knows what it's doing. Like, you don't need to think of how to walk. You just walk, and the same thing with this big jump. You tried it 1,000 times. You don't need to tell yourself how to hit this big jump. Your brain will just do it.
Do you talk to Noah about this? It seems like, do you guys have conversations about this, getting into flow state or any of, like, do you have any of these types?
Absolutely, yeah. When he's about to try some big stunt, it's like I tell him, like, close your eyes. Like if he's struggling, I tell him, close your eyes, breathe, think about what you're going to do. And what's really important, I think the most important, is think about what the feeling is going to be like when you already landed it. Like what that inside is going to be. Once you can feel that celebration, it's like you already did it in your head. Now all you have to go is just do it in person, So it's like, how is it going to feel like when you landed it, And then that those endorphins and that like manifestation of like, oh, I already did it, So yeah, it's a huge part. I think the mental game is huge. Like a lot of the top level athletes, they have mental coaches, or when they're going through a slump and they're losing, then they have to go to a mental coach, a mind state coach. And there's all sorts of strategies that you have to use to try to kind of get yourself back into your A game. It's not 100% physical. It's not all like training and athletics. It's a lot in your head.
Man, like we could talk about this all day. Like, this is like my love language when you start talking to getting into like the psyche and getting into your mental state, because I think you're exactly right. And it applies across life. It's like, it's everything. I mean, it's the vast majority of everything. And then you add in the athletic component, or you add in the IQ for, or the business acumen, but like, it's mostly in your head. It's, how do you overcome that? And you said something a second ago, like envisioning the outcome, how you're going to feel, right? And trying to feel like, what is it going to feel like when I land this jump? What's it going to feel like when I land this next deal? What's it going to feel like when I sell my company? Whatever it might be. And I think, kind of, we're getting a little woo woo here, but like, it's absolutely been true in my life every single time when you can sort of like,
feeling is the strongest emotion. When you can already imagine the feeling, it's pretty much done. All that it needs to be done, all you got to do is actually do it. Mentally, it's already done.
Absolutely, man. Oh my gosh. This is the favorite part of the conversations that I have all day, every day now. So this is good. Stephen, is there anything else for people who follow you or want to follow you and Noah? Is there anything else we should know about? Or are there any competitions that people can kind of follow along with?
No,
you're working on this project. What's going on with the video?
Right. We're working on a film project right now, which is about a 7-minute video, which is basically just like a highlight reel of like, we've been traveling all over the country for this and all over the world for this last year, filming tricks and cruising all over the place and just trying to get some cool clips and land some cool tricks. And like I said, we went all in on it. Like, we dropped everything, and this is all we're doing. And like, it's first season of snowboarding, so our hopes is to try to just drop this video project, which will drop next October, or this upcoming October, and make a big enough splash with this video. Like I said, it's all never been done. Like, there's never been a kid, I don't even think up until maybe teenager, like 15, 16, that's filmed a full video project before,
Oh, wow.
And then especially none at 6 years old, Usually it's professional athletes that do this. Like, you can travel the country for a year and you film snowboarding for the whole year and try to get your best tricks, try to get your best videos. So he's going to be the first kid to do something like this, Nigel Houston was like kind of like that same person that did that for skateboarding 10 years ago when he was like 8 years old or 7 years old. He dropped a full part for skateboarding as a kid, and it kind of blew everybody's minds and kind of changed everybody's perspectives. And Noah is doing that at 6 years old for snowboarding, and already via just his Instagram, it's changing everybody's perspectives of what is on a board, especially at that age. Like, he's unlocking a lot of things that like people are like, oh, okay, that's possible at that age, and now other kids are starting to be able to do them. Like flips, for example. There was no kid at his age doing flips. Since he's done one, now other kids are realizing, oh, okay, it's possible. And I've seen like 2-3 other kids now figuring them out, because it's like a lot harder when it's never been done and you're pioneering that way. Same thing with, we're doing a lot of filming in the streets, like sliding big rails in the streets, big stairs in the streets. No one's ever done it. Now we're starting to post some of that stuff on Instagram. It's kind of inspiring a lot of people to like kind of get out there. And I'm seeing other kids that are like, oh, shoot, we can snowboard not at the resort. We can go outside in the streets, and it's accessible for everybody. You don't have to pay $1,000 for your pass. You can go snowboard just outside at your local park. And yeah, I'm seeing a lot of people doing that. So
Wow.
yeah, this video part's going to inspire a lot of people, and it's going to change a lot in terms of the ecosystem for kids, youth snowboarding.
Dude, what a noble cause on top of it, right? He gets to do what he loves. You get to do what you love. And then also you're going to inspire an entirely new generation of people to have more creative ways to go express themselves and doing the things that they love. I don't know that there's a better outcome, Stephen, than what you just described.
Absolutely.
And so
I don't know if you go up to the mountains much, or like lift passes are like $300 per day at Park City or in Aspen and stuff like that. So it's just absolutely not accessible for the average Joe. Like, I got lucky. Like, the stars and the moon aligned for me to have been able to snowboard because I grew up in the city. And it's great for people. I feel like in Utah it's more common, but like I think that it's great for people to understand that snowboarding or skiing does not mean you have to go shell out $1,000. You can go outside, put your snowboard on, and just ride down your street. You know, you can go to your local park and just go down a hill. You know, there's tons of ways that you can have fun on board or on skis or on anything without dropping a dime. You know,
Wow.
so yeah,
Big deal, man. You're right, because there's not a lot of I don't ski much. I was in Vail a few weeks ago and the lift passes were just out of control, and I just remember being like, who has the money to do
now
this?
Family of 6, you know, or family, it's virtually impossible. Like if you want to take husband, wife, 2 kids to the mountain, you're gonna drop like $5,000 between food and lift passes and lessons and all that. It's just not feasible. It's not normal, which is so weird because in Europe, a lift pass is like $30, $20. It's like,
right.
It's at the mountain. You're like, how are you going to $300 for the nature? You know, like $50 for your parking in addition to the lift passes. It's like, dude, our priorities are just so weird here. You know, I mean, it's just like 3 gigantic corporations that own all the resorts. So they kind of got a hold on it. But yeah, it's completely inaccessible for the average person, which is what's cool. Like I'm here at Woodward, that training facility I was telling you about, and here it's very reasonable. Like the cafeteria keeps food normal price, you know, normal price for a burger, normal price for a coffee, and because the goal is to kind of make it accessible for everybody, you know. But
yeah, well, that's critical here, man, because you know, I'm in the natural food business, and you know, we make premium food products, and it's more expensive to make products without garbage in it than it is to make products with garbage in it. Absolutely. But the battle I always fight is like, how do we make these things more accessible to everybody? Because everyone deserves to eat good food, man. And so like, I love what you're doing here with like, and you know, trying to create inspiration and show people ways to create access to this type of sport where, like, you know, unless you're extremely affluent, you normally wouldn't have access to it.
Yeah, it's funny. Like, I lived in Norway for almost a decade, and same thing. Like out there, well, to eat, we have it backwards here. Like to go out there to go eat McDonald's would cost you like $25 to $30. It was really expensive to go eat at McDonald's in Oslo, but if you went to the grocery store, food was still cheap. So government keeps it cheap to eat healthy, but really expensive if you want to go eat McDonald's, really expensive to go buy a bottle of tequila, really expensive to buy a pack of cigarettes. Where here it's the opposite. It's like for a dad that's on the run, we're snowboarding all day, it's like, I know that if I go to the grocery store, I'm going to spend $100 on a bag of groceries. I know I can go to Wendy's for $5 and get a biggie bag, $5 for chicken nuggets and a burger. You know what I mean? So it's very tough to make those right decisions here when it comes to food. Especially when you're on the road.
We could have an entire 2-hour monologue on food and access and how we've got it backwards here. And maybe you and I will do a part 2 to this, and we can go into food, because, you know, how do you feed your family on the road in the US while snowboarding and doing it like on a budget? Like that's probably a whole entire conversation that you and I could have.
You got to get creative. That's for sure.
Well, you're a master at that. And gosh, Stephen, there are so many good nuggets from this conversation that I can't wait to share with the rest of the world. And I just so appreciate you spending some time with me. I know you're very busy. You're dedicating your life to helping your son. You guys are being really creative with what you're doing on the road. I'm excited to see the outcome of this big project that you're working on. I want to send people to follow you at the Los Angeles River, send people to follow your son at badboy_Noah, and just follow this journey. And if you need a tattoo and you can find time with Stephen, then I highly suggest you do it. He's given me 2. In my time, and I think we're due for a 3rd. I don't know what just happened on my screen there, but we're due for a 3rd. And so we'll find a time to do that. But Stephen, thank you for spending time with me today. I appreciate you so much.
Conversation.